Okay, welcome everybody. My name is Matt Sturm. I'm coming to you from the Organic Masculine, which is my forum to have conversations around what it means to be a man today. I am super excited to be coming here live with a dear brother of mine, Adam Tutor. So by way of introduction, Adam is a spiritual wilderness guide and men's work facilitator who is helping the entrepreneurial man return to his heart and recover from stress and burnout. Through one-on-one coaching, immersive wilderness retreats, and sacred circles, Adam reignites men's relationships with spirit by leading them back to the earth. Adam's initiation into this world of healing began with the Mankind Project. It's an organization I'm also connected to. Continued with coaching intensives alongside Sacred Sons leaders, and carries forth this year with the Great Earth School by Darren Silver. And that's an immersive wilderness training that will bring to life his desire for leading full-fledged vision quests. From his home in the redwoods of Bay Area, California, Adam is currently writing his first book titled More Men Meditating and How It Will Heal the World. This is a guidebook and testimony, which is due out late in 2023. So welcome, Adam.
Thank you.
So let's just start with the title of this talk, which is also the title of your book, More Men Meditating and Healing the World. Tell me what this means for you.
First of all, it feels really heartwarming to have that be read aloud,
right?
to like that it's not just inside my little writing dungeons and other aspects of my inner world, to hear someone else speak that into existence. There's a sense of accountability to it.
Sure, it's powerful.
So I'm really grateful for that. Yeah, this is something that has been brewing within me for several years, when I started to first lead retreats and see men slow down and sit in silence, pray and meditate. That stirred something within me. I've always known that meditation is the key. Through my own relationship with God and Guru, through that path as a yogi, through just living that in the daily sadhana. But I hadn't shared that in a dynamic way before. People, in particular men. And in an effort to start to like practice together, I started trying to come up with some sort of like weekly challenge or something like this, that I could have men together and meditate together. It originally began as real men meditate. And then someone said, I don't like how that sounds. Like, it sounds judgmental. Maybe you should rethink the title. And I'm really grateful to that guy, wherever he is, because it got me rethinking. And I was like, what am I really trying to say? Yeah. And the title of the book emerged, more men meditating. Like, that's what I want to see, is more men meditating. And so it's an attempt to bring meditation into a more modern context, without any of the esoteric, without any things that may scare people away, or they feel like they have to have a certain amount of time or practice, or a guru themselves, or whatever it may be. I'm not really spiritual. I can't do that. Okay, friend, let's slow down, first of all. And let me show you how this is a part of every man's daily life. regardless of if you're sitting still on a cushion and you're turning your eyes upwards to your, to your seat of intuition. Ultimately, that's what we want to do, and we want to get to that place. And there's so many steps to get there. And so, like, how do we find meditation when we are acting as fathers? I'm not a father, but as a father, how do I find meditation with my children? Meaning, how do I find the space of God communion, connection in my daily practice, whatever that may be? When I'm talking to my boss and I need to be prepared for that next big thing that I'm doing, how do I bring a sense of stillness in my inner world to that place? How can I, take a couple hours each weekend for just like me time, or 10 minutes, whatever it may be? How do I create that space? And so I'm trying to find I'm giving these men tools. So I'm sharing my experience directly through being in nature and having been on this path, saying, here's why it's important to men. And it's important to men because a lot of men in this world have destroyed our world. And a lot of that destruction has come because we're doing too much, and we need too much, and we don't know how to slow down, and we don't know how to feel, we don't know how to be in our hearts. I know this is part of what you're doing with the organic masculine, right? Which is why I really identify with it. And if we can, this is leading to more fatherlessness, more, power hoarding, more inequality, more, rape and sexual abuse, more all of these different things, violence, you name it, like just skewed. And then smaller things, which is like being out of integrity, with your word, and pornography and other things that men suffer from that are more subtle, but that still don't allow them to show up fully in their lives. So this is not just for the greedy, hungry men out there that are really far from this place. It's for men who are like, I know there's more. I don't know how to access it. I want to be a better man. And I want tools that are outside of the gym and the TEDx talks. Like, what can I do within my own body to get to this place? This is meditation. It's free. You don't need anything. It's been done for thousands of years, and it's been tested. It's only now catching up. So so after I share that, then I share, here are the actual steps. Here are some challenges. Here are some ways that you can find this sort of peace in your daily life, and let's do this together.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I want it to become like a pod experience. I want to do these circles across the nation and the world, and have women meditating festivals, and have the book be a guidepost for these experiences that will be a hallmark of, my mission in the world and why I'm here. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay. Wonderful. So now let's dig in a layer deeper. Let's say I'm a guy. I'm ready to be on my path of growth. I'm ready to take responsibility for the state of the world. I'm not finding fulfillment in the gym or in TEDx talks. I come to you. You say, bro, meditation. Okay, what do I do?
You've taken the first step. You've asked for help.
Mm-hmm.
So that's number one. Number two, find ways in your life so we take like an inventory. Cool. Where are the places that are bringing you joy? Let's take a look at all those things. List all those things. How important is that to your well-being? Like scale of 1 to 10. Let's go through all this. How do you continue to find these in? Awesome. Let's do the same thing for all the things that take away energy from you. And list all those out. And how much of an impact do they have on you? And then how is it manifested in your life, right? How do we access that? Once you start to see, men generally then start to see kind of this imbalance. So we sometimes I kind of have to prove it to them, like, hey, look, life's out of balance a little bit. Here's all the doing, and how much time will you actually be? Once that picture's clear, great. Are you willing to slow down? Cool. Well, here's some ways that we can, I want you to first practice it, when you wake up in the morning before the kids get going, before you started checking your emails. Give yourself these 5 minutes. It's like take it. Don't worry about the techniques. Don't worry about the philosophy. All you're trying to do is count in to 4, hold your breath for 4, count out for 4, and hold your breath out for 4. Do that a couple of times, and then sit with it. See what happens. And then we get to the places of, like, do you want to know actually more? Do you want to learn more about the breathing techniques? Do you want to learn more about how you clean your mind and your heart to be in a place of deep meditation? Like, what are the practices that a yogi has that allow him or her to be in right balance, so that he or she can actually sit on the mat without distractions, because there's purity in heart, body.
Yeah.
And so it starts out with these very small steps,
Mm-hmm.
and then we'll emerge into something much deeper. But my favorite thing to do is just come on the trail with me, and like, you'll find out. As soon as someone is on the trail, then it's like they've got it figured out. It's just a matter of integrating that into their daily lives.
Sure, which is a process. Yeah. So then let me ask you this. Meditation is probably helpful for all people. So what is it specifically about men meditating, or why do you feel called to focus on men in meditation?
So I only teach what I know, and this is something that I know, and I am a male identified body. I don't know that California terms how you say that, but I am a man in a physical body that has had the experience. Yeah, that has had this experience as a man, and I've had a lot of healing to do. Without meditation, I would not have been able to do. And so I want to be able to share that from a direct relational experience with men, because I've lived that, and I know certain things that with that identification, and ways to ground within that body, ways to have the breath and the voice pace of the way I'm speaking, speak to the heart of man. It happens when we're around a fire. Like fire does the same. Nature in general does the same thing. But so that's one aspect of it. The other aspect, the other aspect is if men don't find that grounding themselves, they're going to keep blazing. They're going to keep raising and blazing, and not in always a good way. The path before them, meaning that it can be unconscious, meaning they won't always be in their hearts. Maybe they're going to keep trying to prove something because they don't know how to just sit still and ask, what am I really here for? Am I living that? What's keeping me from my ultimate joy and success? And if we bring men into that place, then we start to see a shift in the workplace. You start to see a shift in the relationships that they're in, the way they're fathering, the way they're showing up as a husband, as a partner, the way they're interacting with the world is from a deeper place of stillness, a lack of ego, and ability to listen. Helps men listen. When you're truly meditating, and you emerge from that place, everything is more clear. even if it's just for a moment, even if just for a moment, it's more clear. So imagine if we kept doing it, else would get more clear. Like, I've never known anyone to like meditate and like not have something positive happen.
Sure.
Even, it's like not a medicine that can like go wrong. It's just a matter of how much you choose to like take part in it. It works is the bottom line. And yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I got for now.
So what I'm hearing is that, first off, your journey as a man was deeply impacted by meditation. And so those two are woven together in your experience. And that's what
Right.
you feel like you have to share out.
Right.
And then the second piece, tell me if I'm getting this right. It's like you're looking at the potential impact of
Yeah.
what can happen on the whole world. And you're like, men as a group, if we shift this, it has this ripple out effect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, and I mean, do women need to meditate? Sure. But women also have their own modalities that are maybe more fitting for them in their experience.
Sure.
Men directly, like the elements that we have within us, directly require grounding. Like the organic masculine, you can feed in your own definition. I'm not gonna, but like is grounded, is steady, is solid, and is trustworthy, and is the container that can hold everything else. So if the container is moving around all the time, then the things inside the container are going to spill, and that happens.
Oh yeah.
It happens a lot. It happens in Mother Nature itself too, right? Like
totally.
And so, I think that's a deeper aspect of it as well, just from an elemental, like physical, what is the divine masculine meant to be in our being. I've had to learn that the hard way, and I, would like to help other men not make the same mistakes, or at least make them in a way where they're conscious of them, and then they can build the container back and
sure
come to center.
So Adam, it sounds like you have lived some life. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey, and in particular, like the masculinity and the meditation pieces? Like, what have you been through? What brought you here?
So I had a really difficult time building relationships with men for a majority of I had trouble finding examples of men that I admired. And
yes.
and I love my father very much, and he was a great man, but he wasn't me. I was more my mother's child, and so he taught me different things, which I realized later in my 20s and early 30s. But growing up, I was like, there has to be like a soft-hearted, like good man who doesn't want to take advantage of women, and like, just like is kind to people and still can use his power for good things. And I was asking these questions kind of as a teen into college, and not really finding that. So I relied upon relationships with women in romantic relationships, and a lot of my trauma and shame came through that, because I wasn't in a grounded place. I didn't have a masculine core until I was in my late 20s. And so through those journeys, like I hit some rough spots, and hurt some people emotionally, right? And I was like, man, I got to get my stuff together. Like, I remember just like weeping on my music room floor at my home in Texas, where I'm from, and I had on the Joshua Tree album. And, and on vinyl, my mother had given it to me.
Whoa.
And there's a beautiful story to that too. But But like I was listening to this album, which I always loved, and then I still haven't found what I'm looking for. And just that, I mean, the guitar riff at the beginning is so beautiful. And then just like he doesn't waste any time. Like he just bursts right into it, like, and as soon as he hit that chorus, I was just like, I was on the ground. I was like, up to the sky, and I was like, oh, so you mean it's not in these women, it's not here, it's up there, it's in here. I have to go somewhere else to find it.
Mm.
And like I'd started just like pining for Joshua Tree. I ended up going to White Sands, New Mexico, with my yoga mat and the autobiography of a yogi. And I prayed and I prayed and I prayed and I prayed and I meditated, I practiced. And I went through it was New Year's of 2017. It was freezing. There were thunderstorms. It was all the things. And I emerged like fully surrendered into this brand new aspect of being, where like there was still work to do, but like it was a huge turning point. And so that year opened me up to like, cool, reclaiming the way I wanted to be in relationship, finding men's work. That was when I did my MKP, Mankind Project initiation. That summer, I released my first album of autobiographical music. I turned 30. I did all these things, and it was like a huge year of just like, okay, there goes all that behind me.
Yep.
And then I am moving on. But there's this little, if you're familiar with Robert Bly, like he talks about the little black bag or something like that he calls it, to kind of pull behind you. There were still some remnants that came with me, right? And so that meant that after I did my initiation with Mankind Project and really felt like, oh, like this is what I've been, it felt like a homecoming, it really felt like, and we had a homecoming where men come and honor you. My father came and like spoke to me. I get emotional. So like, and Anna blessed me as a man in front of other men, in front of elders who were with me in my journey. And he was the first one to do it, like lay hands on me. And I was like, I remember as clear as day. And I was like, oh, I have to have more of this. Like this has to be a part of my journey. So fast forward a few years later, and apparently him, Andrew Belinsky, is one of my dearest brothers. I'm going to be with him in a few weeks at Shasta. And I was inspired by what he was sharing with the world. And I said, tell me what you're doing. I want to understand. And he picked up the cue and he said, join us. So I joined a kingship council. It was like a 6-month intensive online in the summer of 2020, in the height of the pandemic. And I was at kind of a crossroads in my relationship where I needed to call in my masculinity and my warrior, especially the king. And I emerged from that with my own like version of things. Like, here's what I'm meant to offer the world. Here's my unique gift. And it was archetypally based. I've talked about that. And from there, it just began to like, I began to take ownership more and more and more. I began to practice the things that I was reading and sharing with men. And I was on the trail with men, and I was like, oh, I just led my first retreat. It was like a day and a night, but like there was some powerful stuff that happened, like men stood with the staff and they claimed their kingdom and they held each other's hearts. They moved through this part of their shame or their whatever it was, that it's like, man, what more is possible? So then that's the question I've been asking since then, and just continuing to dive deeper into that. Now I'm doing 3-day 3-night journeys, and I want to do like a full 8-day vision quest eventually.
And you're working towards that. Yeah, beautiful. So you really found yourself first by going into wilderness and being alone, meditating, praying, and then through different organizations and men's work.
Mhm.
And now through that, you are offering that back out to the world, right?
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah, beautiful.
these are the pillars, man. Like this is, I went through experience with my coach recently, and it was like, what are the things that healed you? Like, just list those things. This is probably what's going to be part of your medicine, right? And so that was it. It was
Yep.
sacred. It was sacred brotherhood. Well, you even listed it. I don't know if you intended to do it that way, but it was really nice. It was like nature immersion, meditation, sacred brotherhood, and then the more recent part of it has been like movement, like
Hmm.
movement, primal movement in nature, or like actual just like dancing, whatever it may be. Like for me, it's like when I can move through the woods like a wild animal, or like these kind of
Yeah,
things.
get
Like it's really,
primal.
it really is like
Yeah.
super powerful for me and really moves a lot. And you know, but doing it like in a really like praying upon the altar kind of way, you know,
Hmm.
not just like I'm gonna go pump some iron and like beat up some punching bags, like which is beautiful too. But like, how do I make all this into like a ceremony, you know? And so that's
Yeah.
part of my intention with men is to bring the sacred into all of these elements.
Yeah, beautiful.
Mm.
Okay. So now tell us more, or tell me more about the wilderness component of what you do today.
Yeah, so the wilderness journeys are just really, I mean, ultimately they're an opportunity for men to be in stillness and in silence. That's what I called the retreats initially.
Mhm.
And to turn off your phone for 3 days, to let the world know, hey, I'm going to be on a journey,
Mhm.
to divest yourself of any roles that you perceived that you've had.
Mhm.
You're not a father this weekend. You're not a son. You're not a musician. You're not any of these things, right? And and to come to other men and just be seen. So that is very like rawest is what it is.
Mhm.
And in a deeper sense, it's like a chance for men to remember who they are and then reclaim that new mission in the world and find ways to live that, right? Because this isn't
Mhm.
intended to prepare future like ascetics and yogis and monastics. This is intended to prepare the next, modern day yogi and men who live with that kind of sage wisdom in their daily lives. And so we do archetypal work. We sit around the fire together. We use our imagination and we share creativity. We have like a talent show and we talk
Mm.
about what we want to emerge, and we move into the sacred space like very consciously and find ways to embody the king, the warrior, the magician, the lover
Mhm.
through like very thoughtfully, very spirit guided activities in nature. Like if we were in the mountains once and it was chopping wood, you had to chop your wood for the fire. Each time you laid the axe down, you were claiming your commitment as a warrior, as a man among men. The men were
Mhm.
echoing that commitment. Then you put the logs
Mm.
on the fire eventually, that night. There are a lot of different things around those kind of energies where we are there in the elements, finding ways to feel fulfilled by that and have that mirrored by Mother Nature and see each other in that space. These are all tools that then take you into a day-long experience of fasting and of being in silence. And so we go to a safe place in nature that is away from people, um, as much as possible. And we spend a day from sunrise to sunset. We sit, we build an altar, and we pray with the tools that we've been given. We call upon that warrior strength when we're feeling weak and dizzy. We call upon our king to claim what it is we want to see in the world. We claim upon the lover by being able to feel the beauty and write poetry and fall in love with the trees. And then the magician is like that. Okay, what is the language beyond language,
Mhm.
that I have to learn to listen with? And how do I begin to trust that space of intuition? And then after all this happens, final day is, okay, now we integrate.
Mm-hmm.
What did you hear? What did you feel? How is that unlike anything you've ever heard? What do you think it means? Let's name our mission. Let's claim our kingdom and go forth in the world and live it.
Right. Right. And so what do you see happening on the other side of these retreats, these wilderness excursions that you do?
Mhm. Men are living it, brother. Men are living it. Like every single one of the men that was with me last summer is a dear brother of mine.
Hmm.
And the relationship that I have with them is unlike pretty much any relationship with anyone I've ever served in any other kind of capacity, because you've seen each other through something really intense.
Totally.
You know, there was one man, this is a really powerful story. We did some inner child work through the father wound.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had the men, one man was the father, one man was the son, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
the son gave his father his picture of his actual father. It was held in maybe like a memento or something that reminded you of your father.
Mm-hmm.
And it was basically, and then they wrote on a piece of paper, what's the one thing you wanted to hear?
Totally.
That was it. Super simple.
Mm-hmm.
And then that man took the piece of paper and just read that back to his son for like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Waterworks, brother. Waterworks.
Totally.
One particular man had a really, really powerful experience with it, of just like he came for that. And that's like what he didn't know he needed it, but he needed it. Matt, get this. I mean, it's the most bittersweet and beautiful thing in a tragic way. 2 months later, his father passed.
Wow.
Brother, when I saw
Yeah.
that he shared that, I just like, my heart just dropped. And I was, if this isn't the divine hand, you
Right.
know, if this isn't why we do these things. And he went on to share with me, and like, he even did a podcast himself talking about this. Like, he shared with me, is like, brother, like, I felt solid, man, for my family, you know, like,
Mm-hmm.
did I grieve? Of course I grieved, you know.
Yeah.
Did I cry and I was sad? Of course, all these things. But like, I knew what to do in this time that was really unexpected for my mom and my sisters and my whole family. And he put on like a tribute concert for his father, who was a musician. He's a
Wow.
musician also. And he was just able to embody that in a way because he'd already done a big part of the work. And I
Yeah.
was like, I didn't know. How do you know these things are going to happen, right? I just
Right.
I felt like we need to do some father work. Okay, cool. You know, and so I mean, that's a really powerful example. But I mean, like, each one of these men has lived their commitments and has come back for more. You know, and that's because there's a sincerity when we come together in retreats. There's like a very small group, and so there's an intimacy to it, and so we go really deep.
Yeah.
And
Totally.
and like, there's like a promise that you're gonna emerge transformed. That I promise that. I can't promise if you choose to live it or not, you know.
Totally.
But it will happen. Then do you keep choosing it? And I'll be here for you, supporting, cheering you on every step of the way. You better believe it, because that's what I'm
Yeah.
here for. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow. Beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah,
The synchronicity is just wild when we
it
open
is
up sacred space. Things line
100%.
up in
Exactly.
ways.
Exactly.
Yeah. Wow. And I can feel your passion for seeing other men step into their fullness and living their lives, you know.
Mm.
Mhm. I can really feel like the place in you that gets called to this work as you're talking about these brothers of yours.
I mean, their healing is my healing, and vice versa, you know.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
I mean, we do it for each other. So it's like, when you share a victory with me, like, whether it's not about me, but it lifts me up, you know, because I see that in you. And there's so many men who I've seen so close to that, who just didn't take the next step or weren't ready or whatever. And God bless them. It's beautiful. But to see those who have like, yo, I'm back for more, and I want to go deeper, and I want to level up. I'm ready. I'm in my zone of excellence, but I want to be in my zone of genius. You know, I want to be
Oh, I
living,
like that.
I want to be
Oh,
living there. You know, so yeah.
okay. So maybe that leads into this term from your bio that stuck out for me, which is the entrepreneurial man.
Yeah.
Yeah. What does that mean for you?
It's taken different iterations, you know, so moving here to the Bay Area, I was listening very closely to kind of who am I supposed to be serving here? You know,
Okay.
like what are the men, is it the men doing the men's work already? Is it the men out in the wilderness? Is it the men in the city somewhere? And I just started to notice like a lot of, I was meeting a lot of men who were creatives or working in startups or, you know, the tech life or with these kind of things that were experiencing burnout. And they were like, I'm not living my purpose. Like I'm working for somebody else who just cares about money, and I don't feel connected. I kept hearing these stories, and so I started to think about that. I was like, is this who I'm supposed to serve? You know, and it started to expand beyond that, which is like, right, like that was initially the concept. And then I was like, well, it's not just about them. It's like any man who is in an entrepreneurial space that is trying to live a creative lifestyle, whether he be serving, you know, entrepreneurial to me doesn't mean that you're working by yourself, right? It just means that like you're working for something that's kind of not a part of the status quo, that is inventive, that is creative, and that can be someone else's business, right? So entrepreneur can also be like a musician. It can also be a coach, such as yourself, right? It can be all these different things, a healer. There are certain things that this individual faces that maybe another kind of man may not face. And am I disinterested in working with men in the corporate spaces or other kind of public sector spaces or whatever? Not at all. I think it's an attempt to niche a little bit and say, I have an experience as an entrepreneurial man. I know what it's like to experience certain kinds of stress and burnout, and to ultimately work to like live your purpose, which is what, humbly speaking, something I'm still working out. You know, like I checked in today with you earlier, kind of exhausted and emotional. Like it's really tough to live your purpose and your passion if you're not willing to like go through some of the tumult, you know, and acknowledge that you're experiencing those things. So like I'm feeling that for sure. And so if we can come together to help these kind of men slow down and feel safe in the unknowing of what's next, and give themselves the space to really find out what they want. You know, one of these men that was on the last retreat I did as well, like a summer ago, he had just left his job, and he was wanting to leave his relationship too. So he left his entrepreneurial job, probably paying good money, you know, and like a relationship that had been long lasting and changed a lot of things for. He left all that because he was like, it's not it. He's like, I'm scared, man. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do. But he spent like 6 months figuring it out, and ultimately emerged on the other side. He works for Google now, like in Boulder, and he's crushing it, and he's so happy. And it's like, if he had taken anything else, he may have returned to a similar lifestyle and just repeated the same pattern. And inevitably that can happen. And it's like, when do you want to choose to get out of the pattern? There's some exit ramps, right? You're on the highway. Did you miss that exit ramp? That's okay. There's another one. There's another one coming, you know? And so that's kind of what this work is. It's like, come take a little pit stop, let's refuel, and then we'll get you back on the highway, and you'll be maybe you'll be an electric vehicle now, or you'll be a hybrid at least, and you'll be a little more
Sure.
fuel efficient, and you'll be knowing where you're going is the point.
That's it.
You
You
know,
got your compass lined up, so you
Yeah.
know, well, this is my North Star right here.
exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I've heard you say in our conversation so far a couple of times the importance of slowing down.
Mm.
What happens when we slow down? Why is that so important for you?
I'm really enjoying this conversation. It's really these are like conversations I have in my head all the time, and it's nice to like vocalize them. Why it's important to slow down, and why is it important? Let me practice that. Let me do that
Exactly.
as
Yeah.
as I answer. When I slow down, I'll just speak from my own direct experience.
Hmm.
When I slow down, my body softens, my heart slows down, my breath slows down. When all these things happen, inevitably, my mind slows down. When all of these things are moving on God's time, which sometimes feels super slow, I can actually listen to what his plan is. I can actually be on God's plane for a moment and understand the design. I can receive the wisdom that is not from me or my ego or what I think is God, but it actually is. And when that happens, I trust myself.
Mm-hmm.
When I trust myself, then I am myself, and I am present in the world as Adam is supposed to be, without any of the adornments and masks and whatever else there is.
Mm-hmm.
When I present in that way and I trust myself, other people will trust me. I am trusted by others. I see it in my relationship. I see it when I'm in certain places where I'm not trying to prove anything, and I'm just living as that example. I'm embodying that. I spend a lot of time when I go to men's groups just like meditating, in between like the different things that happen, and people see that, and not that I'm doing it to be seen, but like people I think want that, and because there is a safety in it, and it is something that people are curious about. And I think ultimately what we want is to feel that kind of safety and to feel that kind of trust in our own bodies. And so I think that only can happen when we choose to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And like something I admire so much when I'm at like a circle of any kind, like the less someone says, probably the more that I trust them, when they're not trying to pack everything in.
Right.
And it's just like, that's what I love about being with like true facilitators and like true medicine men, like true shamans, not just like the new age people that have trained with someone else, but like men of the earth, indigenous peoples who have actually like lived that. Like there's a reason, like why they're hard to find is because they blend into the earth. Like they speak the way the earth does, and the earth doesn't speak often, but when it does, it's important. And each thing has a reason, and it's placed in that particular place for that reason. And I love meeting people like that, because there's such depth there, and it requires us to slow down, to listen, and to spend a lot of time. And I think that's the hardest thing for people in slowing down is, okay, I've got the next podcast that I have to go listen to, or I've got to like hurry to this next thing, or how do I've been watching sales. It's like, how do you get people the fastest result, the least amount of effort, and the quickest amount of time? And that's what people are going to buy. I want to I understand that in theory, And I want to kind of shift that. I want to be able to live this in a way where it's like, if you do take a little bit more time, like it's actually in the long run going to save you way more of that time, energy, and money, and all those things than having done this other quick fix that ultimately wasn't a fix. It was a band-aid. You know? And so there's a lot of work to get there to reverse that trend and that idea and that reality. But I'm gonna start living it now, and that's all I can do.
Yeah. Reminds me of a joke. I don't know where I heard this, but it was like, when you're not busy, meditate 20 minutes a day.
Yeah,
And when you are busy, meditate 40 minutes.
yeah, exactly. So true.
Okay. So you're starting to touch into this thread, which is what happens on the other side of this initiation process for men. More men meditating in nature, in brotherhood. But the parenthetical is, we'll heal the planet, right? So where are we headed? What is going to result as more brothers step onto this path and start to get the transmission that you have to offer?
We're gonna see happier marriages and partnerships. We're gonna see young people who are raised in a way that is connected to the heart and to each other and to nature again. We're going to see people gathering in ways in public spaces, in our workplaces, where there's a different idea and way of experiencing mental health. Like this, my dream is that these will become a part of a lot of different forums, a lot of different places, and that it will be like required to like have like meditation classes for like all, like same way you have like healthcare for people in certain jobs. Like even that's hard to find, but like, having mental health care, having meditation, having these things integrated, because it will be understood as invaluable, understood as everyone's more productive, everyone's happier, everyone's more connected, everyone's more loving. All of these things is what we ultimately want, right? So at like a greater society level, like that's kind of, I think, what's possible, right? There's a lot of data, a lot of iterations to go through to get there, but like on a more personal level, like when I'm walking together with men and we are choosing to grow this and we're choosing to see the value of it, I'm picturing men developing their own circles where they live, creating their own community, gathering together to meditate with men, sit in circle a couple of times a month, however that may look. Follow the book as a guidepost if you want, or just do it your own way. And then let's gather from time to time, and let's go on retreat together, and let's go feel that in a true way in the heart of nature. Like, let's ultimately bring this to as many people as possible and have it be an alternative to the bro workouts and the other things that are sexy and popular right now and beautiful and important. And I'm going to go to a bro workout tomorrow, but there's a balance, right? There's a balance of all these things. And are you taking that time? Like, I'm in a men's group right now, and I'm seeing a bunch of guys talk about meditation. They're like challenging each other, and they're like, I just did 10 minutes. Oh yeah, me too. Like, and I'm like, this is really cool. Like, it makes me really happy, It's just naturally happening, and people are recommending it to each other, and they're seeing the value of it. And so I think we have to share our experiences with it. Meditation has to become popularized without losing its spiritual fervor and devotion. and that spirit, right? Like that's what's so important, is that how do we do these in sacred spaces? How do we continue to
Mhm.
blossom this experience outwards and share how it's impacting us? So I feel like if men come out into nature and they sit in the circle and we breathe together, that they're going to want to come back. And when they come back, they're going to notice the changes inside themselves. And then that's going to ripple out to everyone.
There we go. Beautiful. Yes. Love it. So for the brothers out in the world who are listening, who want to get connected with your work,
Yeah.
what's coming up? How can people plug in?
Beautiful, beautiful. So I'm looking to gather with men here in the Bay Area, sit together to be out in nature. I live in the Redwoods. I also come into San Francisco area. If you're anywhere in the Bay and you want to gather as a man, sit and talk, or just sit and be in stillness, this is an opportunity that I want to share with you. So please reach out to me. There's a retreat coming up in late May that I'm working on, and then another one that's the actual iteration of what I spoke about, the other men, the 3-day, 3-night journey, which will be happening later this summer, probably July, August. And
Okay.
so these are in the works, and
Mhm.
I'm just starting up my coaching work more fully again, and a lot of that is meditation based. A lot of that is coming back into our centeredness and learning how to find the mind, body, spirit alignment. So if anything has resonated and you're wanting to go deeper and be accountable to those practices, would love to support you on that journey. So I think you're sharing, it's Mentor for the Masculine on Instagram. Adam-tutor.com has my information, and yeah, I would love to continue the conversation.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Mm.
Oh, wonderful.
And I'm hanging out with this cool guy, with Matt, a weekend before Soul Play here in California, or the Organic Masculine. Is that what it's called? Organic Masculine?
That's it.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So I'll be there on that, helping to be a model, a support system for you, brother, and really excited about that. So would love to meet any man who's coming to Soul Play who wants to
wonderful.
get their body primed for that journey. Would love to meet you.
Yay. Yeah, thanks for mentioning that. June 1st to 3rd, up at the same venue where Soul Play is, we'll be having a men's retreat, creating brotherhood, and then we can transition that straight into the festival. That's the vision. And pleasure to have you and all of your wisdom come and contribute to that retreat.
Honor to be with you, brother. Thank you for trusting.
Yeah, totally. Wonderful. Well, thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing about your path and your vision and what you're offering in the world. It's a real path of service that you're on, and it has its own road bumps and challenges, and you're meeting them. I can see that, and it's beautiful. So I'm excited for you and excited for the men who feel called to connect with you.
Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, brother.
Peace and love.